Hi there guys, and welcome to another edition of the Cover Zero show with me, your host Simon Conboy. This episode will be focusing on the Carolina Panthers, who had an incredibly disappointing season after being runners-up in the Super Bowl, finishing bottom of the division. Strange season for them. They started the season poorly. Things only got worse. To be honest, I thought Cam Newton started the season quite well, played well in that Thursday night game against the Broncos where he got beat up, considering that the pressure he was under. Offensive line was once again a total liability in pass protection. Cam took a shoeing. Jonathan Stewart got injured, weren't as effective in the run game from an offensive line perspective. Got Kelvin Benjamin back. I think we can say Kelvin Benjamin's not a true number one. Him and Funchess are an okay pair. Greg Olsen's still the best receiver on that offense. But Cam, I think you'd have to be disappointed with what you saw in him if you're a Panthers fan at the end of last season. You started to see some of those unfortunate tendencies of his that we saw early in his career, where he really does not handle adversity well, gets stroppy. I personally saw a lack of effort. His completion percentage was atrocious in the last month of the season. He was one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league. If you think I'm being too harsh, let me know. But if you watch those games, this was not an MVP. Previous season MVP, fair enough. It was hard to argue. Great season, really came on. He's going to continue to face criticism if he handles himself like this. I've been as critical of him as anybody. I don't like the way he handles himself. I don't think it, from a leadership perspective, and I sometimes think that aspect can be a bit overrated. But he gets pouty and sulky. If I was one of those guys in the huddle, I would not be inspired by him. I'm not questioning the guy's passion, because that's the way. At least that's there. That's the key. He does care enough to get that emotional about it. But I don't know. Worrying signs, I think, at the end of last season. Really regressed, played poorly in every facet. Defensively, Kuechly suffered another major concussion. Really disappointed about that. One of my favourite players to watch. I really hope this doesn't have any long-term repercussions for his career, because there's a couple of big concussions where he's missed a large number of games for them now. Defensive line didn't play as well this season. They were a real strength the year before. Of course, they missed Josh Norman. Him leaving is not the reason that defense fell off the way it did. The level of play from players was not good enough. Lotulelei played very poorly, I thought. Kawan Short started the season slowly, played well afterwards. Didn't get much from the defensive ends last year. In all, a real negative season for the Panthers, a massive step backwards. Going into next season, the first major need that will be, to the surprise of no one, is offensive tackle. Mike Law and Mike Remmers were not a good enough pairing in the Super Bowl. They should have attacked that position last year somehow. They should have done something, because they could not go into the season. Once again, the two of them struggled. Remmers is okay, I suppose. A bit of a liability in pass pro. I think we've seen that. Owa is not a particularly good starting tackle, especially if you're going to man him on the left. Not going to make a joke about the film. Defensive end is a need. I really like Charles Johnson. I think he's had a nice career. Struggled last year. It was coming off injury. Started to pick up his play toward the end of the season. Really need to bring in some young talent there. Running back, I think, is a need. Jonathan Stewart's always been a bit injury prone. He's hit that. He's 30 now. Bringing in a young running back would really help. I think the way this offense works, if you want to maximise Cam Newton and his ability to run, which I know they're trying to tone back, but you still need to have a really good runner to have teams respect his ability to run also, to get the real benefits of it. In terms of what they've done in free agency, they've been incredibly active. I mean, this roster is going to look very different from what it was 2 years ago when they made the Super Bowl. So once again, they brought back Charles Johnson. This time 2 years, 9.5 mil. Can't criticise it. Reasonable move. Maybe a bit rich, but they wanted him back. It might be a bit of a reward for his long-term contributions to the Panthers. Maybe they saw enough from him to think for a defensive end, it's pretty reasonable money, to be honest. So he'll be back. He'll be playing alongside Julius Peppers, who's coming to them on a 1 year, $3.5 million deal. Must be nice for Panthers fans to have him back. I was so glad when he left the division. He still have nightmares about him beating Jeremy Trueblood horrifically several times in the years when he was originally with the Panthers. Great veteran player, as I mentioned, with the Packers. I'm sure he can help out some of the younger guys. Don't know how much he'll contribute. I suspect he'll be a situational pass rusher guy, but had about 7 sacks last year, so there might still be something left in the tank. Perfectly reasonable signing. Feels a need. No issue with that one there. Other than that, no major signings defensively. Brought back Captain Mullen. Bit of a surprise considering he went off at the team when he was originally released. But he knows the system, gives them a vet. They had the 2 rookies starting last year who frankly performed admirably. Did not get torched nearly as much as people seem to think they would going into the year. It didn't end up being a massive weakness for them. So credit to the Panthers for that. Bringing Mullen back, perfectly reasonable. On the offensive side of the ball, my personal worst signing, I cannot see this being topped unless someone does something absolutely crazy. Just Matt Khalil for a 5-year deal, 55 mil, 25. I spoke about this previously. This is a terrible, terrible signing. I know I said this team needs offensive tackles, and they do. They still do. Khalil was a train wreck for most of his time with the Vikings. The last 2 seasons, he barely played last year. He played 2 games before he got injured, but was a turnstile. Has really underperformed since being number 4 pick. Now, if he can resurrect his career, live up to that draft status, brilliant. But they're paying him like a pretty damn good left tackle at the moment, and that he has not shown he can be that. He's shown he's a liability. He might be worse than Orr at this point. Probably is. They lost Remmers, replaceable guy, I think, but terrible signing. I just do not understand it in the slightest. Why weren't they after Ricky Wagner, who's gone to the Lions? They need both tackle spots to be addressed. He signed less money. He's a good player. I don't think Matt Khalil makes them better, and the contract is absurd. Absolutely ridiculous. I think the Panthers are going to regret this move. If he proves me wrong, I will be the first guy to admit it, but I guess it reunites him with his brother. That's good, I guess. Good for him. Bought in Russell Shepard, special team from the Buccaneers. He'll help him on special teams. I don't suspect he'll see much at receiver. It's a fine move. Don't have the information there. Bought in receiver Charles Johnson, formerly of the Vikings. Just $2 million 1 year deal. They might be able to get something out of him. If they don't, that's fine. Needed the receiver depth, so that's an understandable signing. Brought back Fozzie Whitaker, the running back. Doesn't really change too much. Knows the system. Makes sense to bring a guy like that back. They had the Coney Ealy trade, which with the Patriots, that was a strange one. Just moving up a few spots, I think from the 3rd to the 2nd, to send Coney Ealy to the Patriots. It's a bit of a nothing move to us. Clearly, they don't mind getting rid of him. I'm guessing, it's a sign that he could have been cut at some point this season. They move up. That's nice. Good for them. I don't think it's a huge deal. I think outside of that Super Bowl performance, he has not shown me anything in his career to make me think he's going to be an impact player in this league. Losing Mike Tolbert was a bit of a surprise. He's gone to Buffalo. That could hurt them. They've used him really well over the last couple of years. Lost Mike Remmers. The need at tackle was there, whether they re-signed him or not. You'd hope to upgrade on him. He got paid too much money anyway. AJ Klein, that's fine. They've got linebackers. He was a backup. played okay, I guess, when Kuechly was out, but no big deal there. And they lost Ted Ginn, which I actually think may hurt them. He's had a role in that offense that he's performed pretty well. Now, I don't think by any means he's a high-end player, but him and Cam Newton seem to have some sort of connection on those deep balls. Offered them a threat. Now, the guys they've got, they just do not have that anymore. They've got a couple of big-bodied guys and not much else. Now, Benjamin, as I say, I don't believe he's a true number one. He's a solid player, and we've seen glimpses with the number 2, Devin Funchess. I think they're both very similar players. I think this move could hurt them, considering the deal he signed with the Saints. It's just one of those where I feel he's got more value to the Panthers than to anyone else, having been there for a while and had by far the most success in his career there. This could change the way that offense operates somewhat. His deep strike ability was something that you had to account for, and it was utilised very effectively the past 2 seasons by the Carolina Panthers. So that one could be a loss. In terms of the free agency, as I say, been one of the most active teams thus far. Are they better? That I'm not so sure. Defensive line moves, they're reasonable. I mean, Kawan Shorts, I'm sure they'll be looking to lock him up to a long-term deal. He's franchised. They had to do it. But Johnson, Peppers, solidified depth there. I still feel there's a need to get someone young with some upside for the future to really get that pass rush going again. A bit of a need at corner. Perhaps those guys could develop this year. As I say, they showed glimpses last year. Really got better as the season went on, as you would expect. But I feel like, for that defence to get to where it was 2 years ago, the edge rush is the priority. Offensively, I just can't see much progress being made until that offensive line is fixed. Cam is going to continue to get beaten, and it is going to be tough sledding. I think the Ginn move will hurt them more than a lot of people may expect. It feels like a step sideways for the Panthers. I don't feel they've got any better. I think, if anything, they may have got a little bit worse. Free agency, still got some running backs out there they could go for one. The draft, I think, Fournette would fit in really, really well there. I'm kind of hoping it doesn't happen. I don't want to have to deal with that guy in Carolina. I don't know if he falls that far. It's always tough with the running backs to know where they're going to go. He'd fit in brilliantly. If Lacey can get himself sorted, he'd be a great signing for them. I think fits, the sort of power game that they've played with for the last couple of seasons. It feels like a transition to me, like a mini rebuild rather than a team retooling to try and make a quick shot back to the Super Bowl. I don't think the roster is there at this point, unfortunately. I know it's only 2 years ago, but that can be a long time in the NFL. We saw this with the Niners, who've just been gutted since they made a Super Bowl. That fell off really quickly after Harbaugh was fired. Bit disappointing, I think, if you're a Panthers fan. It is difficult. The offensive tackle spot was always going to be hard to address in the current market. But, maybe a guy like Okung, who's shown a bit more than Khalil has, would have been a better option. So we'll see what happens. I could be proved wrong. Panthers fans, let me know. What do you think? Do you think I'm being too harsh on the Panthers? Do you feel like they're still in a Super Bowl window? What do you think of Cam last season? I know I was very critical. I got to be honest, I will defend this to the death because I've got tape that I can show you that will back up what I have been saying. And frankly, if you watch the games, unless you're deluding yourself, he was very, very poor. And don't just look at the completion percentage. Don't just look at the numbers. Watch his body language, some of the decisions he's making, the quality of some of those throws. I mean, his mechanics were shot. But yeah, let me know what you think of that particular aspect. As I say, is this team still in a window? What do you think of the moves they've made so far? Do you think this team is better? Do you think they've gone backwards? Always fun to discuss these things with people. As always, like, share, subscribe, comment. I'll try and get back to everybody. If you've got any ideas for future shows, let me know. I'll try and do them for you. We'll see what the Panthers do. Can they get back to the Super Bowl in the next year? I don't know. But thank you very much for watching. Please check out the rest of the videos, the Patreon, follow me on Twitter, and have have a great day. Go Bucks.